Footnote 1. It is probable that no more was meant by those who denied innate ideas than that all ideas were copies of our impressions, though it must be confessed that the terms which they employed were not chosen with such caution nor so exactly defined as to prevent all mistakes about their doctrine. For what is meant by innate? If innate be equivalent to natural, then all the perceptions and ideas of the mind must be allowed to be innate or natural, in whatever sense we take the latter word, whether in opposition to what is uncommon, artificial, or miraculous. If by innate we meant contemporary to our birth, the dispute seems to be frivolous, nor is it worthwhile to enquire at what time thinking begins, whether before, at, or after your birth. Again, the word idea seems to be commonly taken in a very loose sense by Locke and others, as standing for any of our perceptions, our sensations and passions, as well as thoughts. Now, in this sense, I should desire to know what can be meant by asserting that self-love or resentment of injuries or the passion between the sexes is not innate. But admitting these terms, impressions and ideas in the sense above explained, and understanding by innate what is original or copied from no precedent perception, then may we assert that all our impressions are innate and our ideas not innate. To be ingenuous, I must own it to be my opinion that Locke was betrayed into this question by the schoolmen who, making use of the undefined terms, draw out their disputes to a tedious length without ever touching the point in question. Like ambiguity and circumlocution seem to run through that philosopher's reasonings on this as well as most other subjects. Footnote 2. Resemblance. Footnote 3. Contiguity. Footnote 4. Cause and effect. Footnote 5. For instance, contrast or contrariety is also a connection among ideas, but it may perhaps be considered as a mixture of causation and resemblance, where two objects are contrary, the one destroys the other. That is, the cause of its annihilation and the idea of the annihilation of an object implies the idea of its former existence. Footnote 6. The word power is here used in a loose and popular sense. The more accurate explication of it would give additional evidence to this argument. Footnote 7. Nothing is more powerful than for writers, even on moral, political, or physical subjects, to distinguish between reason and experience, and to suppose that these species of argumentation are entirely different from each other. The former are taken for the mere result of our intellectual faculties, which, by considering a priori the nature of things and examining the effects that must follow from their operation, establish particular principles of science and philosophy. The latter are supposed to be derived entirely from sense and observation, by which we learn what has actually resulted from the operation of particular objects, and are thence able to infer what will for the future result from them. Thus, for instance, the limitations and restraints of civil government and a legal constitution may be defended either from reason, which, reflecting on the great frailty and corruption of human nature, teaches that no man can safely be trusted with unlimited authority, or from experience and history, which inform us of the enormous abuses that ambition in every age and country has been found to make of so imprudent a confidence. The same distinction between reason and experience is maintained in all our deliberations concerning the conduct of life. While the experienced statesman, general, physician, or merchant is trusted and followed, and the unpracticed novice, with whatever natural talents endowed, neglected and despised, though it be allowed that reason may form very plausible conjectures with regard to the consequences of such a particular conduct in such particular circumstances, it is still supposed imperfect without the assistance of experience, which is alone able to give stability and certainty to the maxims derived from study and reflection. But notwithstanding that this distinction be thus universally received, both in the active speculative scenes of life, I shall not scruple to pronounce that it is, at bottom, erroneous, at least superficial. If we examine those arguments, which in any of the sciences above mentioned are supposed to be the mere effects of reasoning and reflection, they will be found to terminate at last in some general principle or conclusion for which we can assign no reason but observation and experience. The only difference between them and those maxims which are vulgarly esteemed the result of pure experience is that the former cannot be established without some process of thought and some reflection on what we have observed in order to distinguish its circumstances and trace its consequences, whereas in the latter the experienced event is exactly and fully familiar to that which we infer as the result of any particular situation. The history of a Tiberius or a Nero makes us dread a like tyranny where our monarchs freed from the restraints of laws and senates, but the observation of any fraud or cruelty in private life is sufficient, with the aid of a little thought, to give us the same apprehension, while it serves as an instance of the general corruption of human nature and shows us the danger which we must incur by reposing an entire confidence in mankind. In both cases it is experience which is ultimately the foundation of our inference and conclusion. There is no man so young and unexperienced as not to have formed from observation many general and just maxims concerning human affairs and the conduct of life, but it must be confessed that when a man comes to put these in practice he will be extremely liable to error, till time and further experience both enlarge these maxims and teach him their proper use and application. In every situation or incident there are many particular and seemingly minute circumstances which the man of greatest talent is at first apt to overlook, though on them the justness of his conclusions and consequently the prudence of his conduct entirely depend. Not to mention that to a young beginner the general observations and maxims occur not always on the proper occasion, nor can be immediately applied with due calmness and distinction. The truth is, an unexperienced reasoner could be no reasoner at all were he absolutely unexperienced, and when we assign that character to anyone we mean it only in a comparative sense and suppose him possessed of experience in a smaller and more imperfect degree. Naturans, footnote 8. Naturans nobis inquit datum dictum an error quodam ut cum era loca vidiamus in quibus memoria dignos veros exceperimus multum esse versatus magis movamur quam sequando iorum ipsorum aut facta audiamus aut scriptum aliquod ligamus velut ego nunc moveor venit enim mihi Plato in mentem quaera excepimus primum hic disputae solitum caius etiam illi hortuli propinqui non memoriam solum mihi afferunt, sed ipsum videntur in conspectu meo hic poner, hic Speusippus, hic Xenocrates, hic ius auditor polemo, caius ipsa illa sessio fut, quam vidimus, equidem etiam curiam nostram hostiliam dico non hanc novam quae mihi minor esse viditur postquam est maior solebam intuns Scipionem Catonem Lalium nostrum vero in primis avum cogiter, tanta vis admonicinis est in locis, ut non sine cosa ex his memoria didacta sit disciplina. Footnote 9. Mr. Locke divides all arguments into demonstrative and probable. In this view we must say that it is only probable all men must die, or that the sun will rise tomorrow. But to conform our language more to common use, we ought to divide arguments into demonstrations, proofs, and probabilities. By proofs, meaning such arguments from experience as leave no room for doubt or opposition. Footnote 10, section 2. Footnote 11. Mr. Locke, in his chapter of power, says that, finding from experience that there are several new productions in nature, and concluding that there must somewhere be a capable of producing them. We arrive at last by this reasoning at the idea of power, but no reasoning can ever give us a new, original, simple idea, as this philosopher himself confesses. This, therefore, can never be the origin of that idea. Footnote 12. It may be pretended that the resistance which we meet with in bodies obliging us frequently to exert our force and call up all our power, this gives us the idea of force and power. It is this nisus, or strong endeavour, of which we are conscious. That is the original impression from which this idea is copied. But first we attribute power to a vast number of objects where we never can suppose this resistance or exertion of force to take place. To the Supreme Being, who never meets with any resistance, to the mind in its command over its ideas and limbs, in common thinking and motion, where the effect follows immediately upon the will, without any exertion or summoning up of force, to inanimate matter which is not capable of this sentiment. Secondly, this sentiment of an endeavour to overcome resistance has no known connection with any event. What follows it we know by experience, but could not know it priori. It must, however, be confessed that the animal nisus which we experience, though it can afford no accurate, precise idea of power, enters very much into that vulgar, inaccurate idea which is formed of it.